This particular presentation is called Cultivating a Positive and Nurturing Environment for Students, Staff, and Families. And it's twofold. Are y'all okay back here? Can you hear? Okay, just checking. Today's presentation is a culmination of the we are redelivering this exact same thing across 22 campuses today. So it is canned, it is recorded, but we will stop for questions. Throughout, if you'll keep your computers closed, it's really important information that everybody gets. We have representatives from student support, social work, school safety, and behavior support. So I'm going to give everybody a second to introduce themselves, then we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Shauna Miller. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Academic Programs.
I'm Jamal Randolph. I am behavior aide with behavior support.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tashana Marion. I am the RCI 504 coordinator, and I am here representing exceptional children.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Hubbard-Barnes. I'm the school social worker.
You don't know Ashley until you've seen her sing karaoke. And since you all gave Randolph this big party cheer, let me try again. I'm Shauna Miller. Okay, thank you. That's what I have to do. I've reached an age where I have to make people clap for me. Okay, we're going to get started. I'll pause it sometimes to add a few things, but for the most part, it is sit and receive. I will ask that you write any questions down you have. We'll have some time, or we've got some experts here that can answer any questions that you might have. Today's presentation is a culmination of the expectations for all employees of Rockdale County Public Schools. Our focus is on cultivating a positive and nurturing learning environment for students, staff, and families, which directly aligns with our strategic plan. This is not just a goal, it's a commitment to creating safe, supportive, and inclusive spaces where everyone can thrive. When Superintendent Chesser began her tenure, she outlined 5 clear priorities for Rockdale County Public Schools. These priorities serve as the foundation for our work and guide every decision that we make. They are attendance, ensuring students are present and engaged in learning; behavior, fostering a safe and supportive learning environment for all; content mastery, promoting academic excellence and achievement; staff development, investing in professional growth for our educators; and stakeholder engagement, strengthening partnerships with families and the community. In direct response to Superintendent Chesser's priorities, particularly those focused on behavior and staff development, the district established the Office of Behavior Supports and Interventions. The purpose of this department is twofold: to strengthen support for classroom teachers and to provide direct behavioral interventions for students. The overarching goal of this department is to reduce out-of-school suspensions by 10%. Equally important, we are leveraging our human resources to ensure that every school maintains a safe, respectful, and productive learning environment. Now that we've introduced the Office of Behavioral Support and Interventions and discussed its role in promoting positive behavior and providing resources for staff and students, it's important to ground our work in the policies that guide how we respond to student misbehavior. These policies are not just rules. They are safeguards that ensure our responses are consistent, professional, and aligned with our commitment to creating a safe and nurturing learning environment. They outline what is permitted, what is prohibited, and the expectations for documentation and communication whenever interventions are necessary. Let's take a moment to review 2 key board policies that govern these responses. Board Policy JDA, Corporal Punishment, which prohibits corporal punishment and defines when limited physical force may be used to prevent harm. Board Policy JGF-2, seclusion or restraint, which prohibits seclusion and limits physical restraint to situations where a student poses imminent danger and other de-escalation strategies have failed. Understanding these policies helps us make informed decisions in the moment and reinforces our shared responsibility to protect the dignity and safety of every student.
I'd like to introduce another board policy regulation. This is JGIR, child abuse or neglect. And I pulled out some of the key points. If a school employee is aware of an allegation of child abuse of a student by a parent or a caretaker, and I put in bold, including a school employee, the allegation shall be reported in accordance with this regulation as soon as reasonably possible. I say immediately. If a school system employee is the alleged caretaker, the principal or immediate supervisor will have to conduct a prompt investigation to determine whether or not any inappropriate or unprofessional conduct was taken by the employee. This means if we see something, whether it's within a classroom, the hallway, the cafeteria, wherever, if we see another employee engaging in some kind of behavior with a student that looks like that child may be facing harm or is being abused, you must report it to the administrator immediately. Third bullet, when in doubt, the school employee or volunteer shall report in order to protect the child and fulfill the legal duty to report. The employee or volunteer must report it or face criminal penalties.
Now that we've reviewed the policies that guide our responses to student behavior, let's shift our focus to what truly makes a difference, our professional practice. Policies set the framework, but it's our skills, strategies, and mindset that bring those expectations to life in the classroom. Professional learning is where we build the capacity to respond effectively and proactively. Today we'll explore evidence-based approaches to de-escalation, positive behavior supports, and interventions that align with our commitment to creating safe, nurturing environments for students, staff, and families. We've spent time building our understanding of policies and strengthening our professional practice through learning and discussion. The next step is ensuring that we can demonstrate compliance with these expectations in a clear and consistent way. To support this, we're going to move into the Compliance Director modules. These modules are designed to verify that every employee understands the requirements, procedures, and responsibilities outlined in our policies and training. Completing these modules is not just a checkbox. It's a critical part of maintaining a safe, professional, and legally compliant environment for our students and staff. We're going to do a deeper review of two of our modules, de-escalation of potentially aggressive behavior and the EPIC crisis alert system. We will start with de-escalation of potentially aggressive behavior. In this learning modules, teachers receive practical guidance on avoiding power struggles in the classroom. The module includes explicit examples of what effective de-escalation strategies look like in real situations. Staff members learn the guiding principles of the mindset framework, which emphasizes establishing a culture of prevention and proactive classroom management. Additionally, Board Policy JGF-2 is presented multiple times in this module to ensure teachers fully understand the appropriate and lawful use of restraint when a person is in imminent danger. Empathy is a very powerful tool in our work with students. As John Mogg reminds us, resistance often occurs when we fail to recognize the student's worldview and don't adjust our approach accordingly. It is all about perception. One key point to remember, you do not have to agree with someone to validate their feelings. Validation simply means acknowledging their perspective and emotions as real and important. This approach helps reduce resistance and opens the door for positive communication and problem solving with students. We've just discussed the power of empathy in reducing resistance and building trust. Now let's look at what happens when emotions escalate and how it impacts cognitive function. Understanding this helps us respond effectively and maintain professionalism during challenging situations. As emotions escalate, access to your brain's higher functioning areas decrease. This means individuals experience a temporary loss of cognitive function, and logical reasoning becomes physiologically impossible during heightened emotional states. In these moments, our role is critical. We must stay calm, aware, and respectful. A person in crisis often isn't aware of how they're behaving. This is when we have to be the calm in the storm, grounded, steady, and anchored, so that we can guide the situation back to safety and stability. Let's move into practical strategies for de-escalating potentially aggressive behaviors. This is where we shift from an understanding the why to mastering the how. Effective de-escalation starts with proaction, not reaction. Timing is critical. How and when we respond can either calm the situation or escalate it further. Use good judgment and avoid overreacting. Both teachers and students benefit when we apply proactive strategies to maintain a safe environment. Here are some key guidelines for effective crisis communication. Get in your car. Stay calm. Be aware and be respectful. Create a one-on-one setting when possible. Minimize distractions and remove the audience. Remember, timing is everything. Address concerns at the right moment, not in the heat of escalation. Avoid giving advice or quick fixes during a crisis. Make empathetic statements whenever possible to validate feelings without agreeing with inappropriate behavior. These steps help us to maintain control, protect dignity, and guide a situation towards resolution.
Rockdale County Public Schools does have social emotional learning expectations. It's a very important part of our daily practice, whether sometimes we're realizing it or not. We have curriculum that we have provided, especially at elementary and middle schools, such as Quaver and Second Step. And it's really important that we make sure that we are implementing these programs and just implementing and weaving in social emotional learning throughout the day, just so that we can help teach the skills that our students need, such as conflict resolution, empathy, emotional regulation, respectful communication, and bullying prevention. So these are tools that help reduce behavioral challenges and create a safe, supportive learning environment. Our school counselors also do a great job of developing lessons and pushing into classrooms. So it's important that we allow time for those skills to be taught. And so we want to make sure they're taught consistently and intentionally. And again, even if we're not in a lesson itself, we're just reinforcing those skills throughout the day. So that will help prevent behavior issues and not just have to react to them. It gives students a shared language for expressing emotions in a positive way and problem solving. And they support positive classroom culture and peer relationships. And they align behavior expectations across classrooms and settings so that students really have an understanding of what's expected of them no matter what setting they're in within the school.
Let's focus on what to say during those critical moments. Words matter. They can either calm the storm or make it worse. The 4-step counseling model gives us a structured approach to communicate effectively and support students in crisis. This model is designed to help us respond with empathy and clarity. Step 1, acknowledgement. Say what you see or hear. For example, I see you blank, or I hear you blank. Step 2, acceptance. Establish the feeling. Use phrases like, it seems like. Step 3, validation. Connect the feeling to the source. Who, what, where, and how. Step 4, empowerment. Develop a plan of action. Questions like, what do you want or need? What else could you do? What can you do right now to calm down? Remember, this script works best when we are calm and emotionally regulated ourselves. Before engaging, check your own state, because if we can't help others regulate if we are not grounded first. Let's look at why these practices are so critical by examining a real-world example of what can happen when professional standards and policies are not
Excuse me,
followed.
I'm going to pause the presentation for a moment. I'm not always very good at this.
Highlights.
Let me back out for a second. I'm going to show you some videos here. So the purpose of this is obviously, we've had some situations in the district the last 6 months to a year. And we want educators to feel empowered. We want educators to feel empowered, that they do not rise to the level where they feel so frustrated or upset. But we also want to give them the tools to deal with those things. But first, I'm going to highlight some news stories that you may or may not be familiar with.
Teacher facing charges in Florida tonight, accused of physically removing. Teacher facing charges in Florida tonight, accused of physically removing a 14-year-old student from class over music. Here's Lindsay Davis.
This student's cell phone footage captures the moment a Florida teacher's temper flares to the point of lifting a 14-year-old student out of his desk and then shoving him out of the classroom. It happened Tuesday at Buddy Taylor Middle School. Jeffrey Buffoni claims the student refused to turn down his music on his computer and slapped his hand away when he tried to mute the music. Buffoni told police the student called him a cracker and claims he grabbed the teen safely so he couldn't hurt himself or anybody else. The teacher has been charged with simple battery. Back in 2012, Buffoni was convicted of battery after a bar fight. The teen in this incident says he was not hurt. After he reported the incident to his parents, they say they plan to press charges.
Buffoni is now out on bond and on leave, pending the outcome of the investigation. David?
Lindsay, thank you.
All right, so that's one story where the teacher had been teaching quite some time. He got angry one time. He just wanted the student to turn their volume down. Reached down, the student kind of slapped his hand away, and then we saw it happen. So he got terminated and he lost his certificate. When that happens, there's really, once you report it, there's probably very few jobs that you'll get after that. I'm going to go ahead and play the next one.
Force and improper restraint in Allen County resigned. And tonight, an attorney for the child at the center of the investigation is...
Not my spiritual gift here.
Force and improper restraint in Allen County resigned. And tonight, an attorney for the child at the center of the investigation is speaking out. He shared surveillance video of the incident with our Mary Gilmans.
Surveillance video from inside a special needs classroom at Tatum Elementary in Farmersville begins with Bobby Jacks, a student with autism, playing with a toy at a table with his teacher, who for an unknown reason takes the toy away.
You're not going to be that friend, I'm not going to be
Seconds later, Bobby Jacks throws an inflatable ball at the teacher, who reacts when he threatens to do it again. The teacher briefly chases the 6-year-old, who shouts when the teacher picks him up, carries him to the corner of the classroom, and does this. Bobby Jack's mom, Montana Williams, spoke with us after the incident last month.
My baby was screaming, "Mommy, do you know what it's like to hear that?" And knowing that I was home, I was 12 minutes down the road.
Farmersville ISD says the teacher involved was immediately placed on administrative leave and resigned prior to the board taking action on her termination. Farmersville police say investigators from the Child Advocacy Center found the elements required for a Class B misdemeanor or higher assault offense were not present. Therefore, no charges will be filed through their office.
Minds differ.
Wesley Gould, attorney for the Williams family, disagrees with the decision.
He doesn't function like me or you, and when he is showing a moment of distress, this teacher's response is to physically pick this child up and throw him to the ground while he is screaming.
6 minutes into the video, the teacher is seen laying next to Bobby Jacks, then sits in a chair with them before other adults enter the room. Gould says he's looking into the teacher's past and wants to prevent something similar from happening again.
Why share this story? For justice, A, for Bobby Jacks, but also because other parents who this teacher was around, like their children and stuff, they deserve to know.
Meredith Yeomans, NBC5.
When they say looking into history, of course, they look into your background history, but they can also request videos of your classroom previously. It's open records. We all have it. So although she didn't have criminal charges, she did lose her certificate. She resigned her position before she was terminated, and then she had a sanction, and they did a report to Child and Family Services.
Tonight, a violent moment inside a Texas classroom going viral. As a result, the community demanding answers after authorities say this substitute teacher was seen on video unleashing a vicious attack on this 16-year-old student, throwing a flurry of punches and dragging the teen to the ground, finally stomping on her head. That teacher, 32-year-old Tiffany Langford, now charged with aggravated assault. A student in the class saying Langford had become increasingly agitated at the Spanish language class, eventually closing in on the victim.
The student swung because she was in her face with her.
The immediate onslaught that followed, leaving the student wailing on the ground.
What was your story like? I didn't know how to react.
The student's attorney says she has epilepsy. The school district says Langford did pass a background check when they hired her in August, adding there is absolutely no excuse or circumstance that can justify what you see unfold on the video.
Okay, so in this case, she was terminated, she received a fine, and she was obviously reported to Family and Children's Services and received criminal charges.
This obtained video of students being kicked, punched, and more inside a classroom.
It's not students fighting. Parents and their attorneys allege it is a teacher who did this.
Fox 5's Kevin Stewart joins us live from Cedar Grove Middle School in DeKalb County with more. Kevin.
And guys, the video that you're about to see was shot back last month, and the teacher in that video has already resigned, and it's likely there will be more fallout.
Let's take you inside a 6th grade classroom via cell phone video at Cedar Grove Middle School. Now watch and listen. That was now former teacher and football coach Adam Smith appearing to hit a student in the chest. And then a bit later, you see the young man with his hand out. This is one of several videos of what's described as corporal punishment involved in Smith's classroom.
So there's been things that happen in my classroom.
Raquel Curtis's daughter is one of the people shooting the videos and one of the alleged victims.
Her teacher struck her twice, once in the leg and once in her palms.
Why?
Because she was told to run around the classroom within a certain amount of time. Mind you, this is English language arts, and she did not do it within the time frame that he asked her to.
The DeKalb County Schools notes it placed Smith on administrative leave, and he has since resigned. In a statement, the school district says it, quote, takes all allegations of inappropriate or unlawful behavior within our schools very seriously. DCSD remains fully committed to upholding the integrity of the ongoing investigation. Our attorney Dwight Deloach is representing 3 student families, including the Curtis family.
These types of things cannot be tolerated. Violate the child's civil rights kicks while the child is on the floor.
I just don't see how anyone would see that video and say, this is normal behavior. I don't know a parent that would allow their child to be disciplined that way, on or off the field.
Now, the school system has been served with an anti-writing letter, which is essentially a precursor to a possible lawsuit. Well, not in DeKalb County. Kevin Stewart.
And just a sidebar, this was a football coach And this was the culture of his classroom. He just had a great relationship with kids in his mind, and really the kids' mind just took it too far one time. But other teachers knew, and as they investigated this, they found that out that it was not reported. So multiple people lost their jobs in this situation.
And took action when no one else would listen. When they complained at Miami Trace Middle School at Washington Courthouse last year that their special needs daughter was being bullied by teachers, they were told she was lying, and that their claims were verging on slander against the teacher and an aide. So the parents put a secret recorder on her for 4 days. Here's what they found. Teacher Christy Wilt and aide Kelly Chackers telling Cheyenne she was dumb and a liar.
I'm not lying.
We're listening to 7 hours worth of stuff on this tape. So we were up all night, crying and upset. So we didn't understand why. We didn't understand why would they do this?
And then there was Cheyenne's weight.
Well, evidently we don't because we don't do anything at home instead. I'm home and watching all night, all weekend. Actually, what did I do for a walk? On the weekends, you're busy. Doing what? Watch TV? What?
The teacher's aide has been fired. The teacher is on unpaid suspension. Cheyenne's parents were the teacher fired as well. In Columbus, I'm Mike Powerson, NBC.
So that is just your words. Words matter. Not always when you want to. Words matter. So I'm going to go back into presentation mode. Maybe.
We can all think of a time we have been angry or frustrated. What did you do? What did you want to do? Did you feel you had a choice? In that moment, what made the difference between reacting and responding? This reflection is important because it reminds us that strong emotions can cloud judgment, not just for students, but for adults too. Recognizing this helps us stay calm, maintain professionalism, and choose strategies that de-escalate rather than escalate. As educators, we have the power to transform tense situations into opportunities for growth and safety. In times of chaos or conflict, we are expected to be the calm in the storm, a hope of peace to anger, an understanding to frustrating, a compromise to the unyielding, a possibility to the uncertain, a way out to the trapped, a safe place for the frightened, and peace among chaos. These roles remind us that our presence and professionalism can make the difference between escalation and resolution. Every interaction is a chance to model patience, empathy, and stability. Clues that signal a crisis response in people often include sudden changes in behavior, such as clenched fists, pacing, raised voice, rapid breathing, refusal to communicate, or withdrawal. These physical and verbal indicators suggest escalating stress and the need for immediate de-escalation strategies. All Rockdale County Public School classrooms are equipped with an EduCam 360 system, providing a continuous bird's-eye view of the entire classroom. As shown in the image, these cameras allow educators, administrators, and security personnel to monitor classroom activity in real time. The cameras capture footage around the clock, serving as an additional layer of safety and accountability. This measure is designed to promote transparency and reinforce our commitment to maintaining secure and productive learning environments for all students and staff. As educators, it's important to remember that classroom cameras provide a comprehensive view of the learning environment. Administrators can clearly see the entire scope.
Get out for a second. I put this in here. Many of you have never seen what the cameras look like in your rooms. So I want to just play this. This is a pre-K classroom, which I feel is busier than most classrooms. So you can see that you can zoom in to anything. They're playing music very lightly. You can hear the music. You can hear her shuffling papers. You can hear anything. It's very, very sensitive. You can also zoom in below and look all around the classroom. So there's very, very few blind spots in the classroom, which is good because it really does have the power to protect you. But I do want you to see just a view of how clear the camera is. You can zoom all around. I'm just doing that from my laptop. I'm going to go to the next view. This is actually my husband's classroom. Don't tell him if you ever meet him. I did ask him if he would sit at a table with his cell phone on the table. I said, I want to zoom in and see if I can tell what you're looking at on your cell phone.
That's good. That's recorded too.
So that is a picture of our son. So just so you see the clarity of these cameras, there is not a lot left up to maybe or what could have been. It's very clear what happens. 95% of the time, that supports teachers in a big way. But we all know that 5% of the time it supports students, which not that it should be in conflict. But sometimes we find ourselves in situations, and these are susceptible to the open records request. So if somebody requests camera footage because they want to take it to David Muir on the national news, they can get that. Go ahead. You can always do an open records request. Yes, anybody can do an open records request. Or you could probably just ask to see the camera in your room. You don't even have to go through all that, I bet, but you could if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to keep going, and then we'll have some questions at the end.
Teachers have been thoroughly trained in the use of the EPIC Crisis Alert System, a critical tool for ensuring safety and rapid response during emergencies. Every classroom teacher wears a lanyard that functions as both a microphone and a portable panic button, which can be activated anywhere in the building. The panic alert can be triggered by pressing 2 buttons on the EPIC lanyard or by using a wall-mounted button. Once activated, the front office system immediately displays a map of the school, pinpointing the location of the alert. At the same time, the classroom camera activates on the front office screen, allowing staff to view the situation in real time. Building administrators and select district leaders also receive instant alerts on their cell phones, including the room number to ensure an immediate and coordinated response. Our alert system exists for one purpose: safety. There are only 6 situations when the system should be activated. 1, an intruder or active shooter. 2, a potentially serious bodily injury or harm. 3, medical emergencies. 4, potential threat to students, staff, or visitors. 5, the threat of weapons or violence. 6, a teacher crisis. The last one is critical. If you feel your own behavior is escalating, if you sense frustration building, or you're reaching a breaking point, tap out before you're in a bad situation. Push the emergency button on the lanyard or the classroom wall. Call the front office or reach out to a neighboring teacher.
Hello, my name is April Fallon, and I'm going to discuss our next section, which is teacher well-being and calming strategies. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge something important. Teaching is deeply meaningful work, but it can also be emotionally and mentally draining. Teachers spend their days supporting students, managing classrooms, meeting expectations, and adapting to constant change, often without much time to pause and reset. So in this next section, we're going to focus on teacher well-being, not as an extra task, but as a foundation for sustainable teaching. Well-being isn't about being positive all the time or coping better on our own. It's about recognizing our stress, understanding how it affects us, and having practical strategies to regulate ourselves throughout the school day. We know that when teachers are overwhelmed, it's harder to think clearly, respond calmly, and connect with students. On the other hand, when we feel grounded and supported, we're more able to create calm and safe learning environments. So before we get into well-being strategies, we need to talk about stress. We all have it. We're not going to be able to avoid it, but we need to learn how to better handle it. And so I've got this graphic of a stress bucket on the right. This is a popular psychological metaphor for managing stress. So you have this bucket, and that represents your capacity to cope. And then you have all these demands and stressors at the top: the workload, illness, financial stress, deadlines, maybe you're moving, grief and loss. And those things all cause the bucket to overflow. So we need coping strategies such as the ones at the bottom, quick, easy ones like learning how to properly breathe, to relax the body. Our social support is so important. Time management, good nutrition, adequate sleep, exercise, having fun. Those are all the taps that drain the bucket. And in this sense, draining the bucket is a good thing. So we need those things so that the bucket doesn't overflow, and we've got some strategies to take down that stress and prevent burnout. So part of keeping that stress in check is being self-aware. And I think most of us are pretty good about monitoring our phones, making sure that we have an adequate battery charge. But what about our internal batteries? We have to have that self-awareness to keep ourselves in check as well. And so some days, yeah, that battery might be fully charged. I'm feeling great. I got great sleep last night. I'm excited about going into the break. But then there may be other days where that battery is slowly draining, and we feel like, gosh, I'm struggling. There's a lot going on in my life right now, or I'm not sleeping. And so it's very important that we, every day, take stock of how we're feeling. Part of self-awareness is also recognizing our own signals. And so the goal is to identify and reflect on your personal triggers so that you can pause, self-regulate, and then apply those de-escalation techniques before responding to a challenging situation with a student. Pausing is really, really important in the beginning of some sort of event. Then we have to look for our own signs of maybe anger or frustration that's building. So we all have our own physical cues, and some may apply to one person and not the other. But physical cues could be a clenched jaw, furrowed eyebrows, tightening chest, rapid heart rate, shallow breathing, and flushed cheeks. Some verbal or behavior cues may be you notice that your voice volume increases. You may be repeating instructions over and over because you're not getting some sort of compliance. You may notice a negative tone, sighing, and just feeling exhausted. Emotional cues, you may be feeling disrespected by a student, overwhelmed, and just feel like you're losing control. So we have to be aware of our own triggers and cues. Other pieces of self-awareness, we have to remember that a student being non-compliant does not always mean disrespect. It could be that a student has a need that is not being met and they don't know how to properly communicate that. This is a time where we have to just pause and reframe. We have to think of this as a behavior problem, not a personal attack. So we have to separate the student from the behavior. Again, you heard me say this already, but it's so important that we all pause and take a deep breath before responding. This kind of allows us a moment to collect ourselves. Right now may not be the time for getting compliance for a student. We can focus on the reteaching and reflecting with the student later on, but it's not about winning right now. Our goal is to de-escalate the situation. Then later, after the event, I think it's really helpful to say, hey, what was that actually triggered me? Could I have done something different? And this does build skills once you're able to recognize, hey, this is my trigger. I don't like it when this happens, but how am I going to respond so that I keep my own control? So I love sharing techniques that help people get calm, and I do this with adults and students of all ages, and these techniques truly work. And I like to give techniques that you can do anywhere, anytime, and that don't take a lot of time. So let's look at a few of these that you may be able to use and that you like. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, this is so that you distract your brain from whatever is going on. So you tell yourself internally, name 5 things that you see, 4 things you feel or touch, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste, or you can replace that with 1 good thing about yourself. So if you look around your classroom or the school building and you say, okay, I'm going to name 5 things I can see. It may be a poster on the wall, a jacket on a chair, things like that. So you're really taking your brain out of the current situation and making it focus on other things. So these are all sensory related. Mindful listening, tuning into the sounds around you. Listening, you might hear the air or heat cut on in your classroom, or you may be playing music in your classroom. Even the example here, the hum of your computer. Anything that sort of just takes you out of the moment and you can focus on something else. This is another sensory calming technique, just holding a grounding object like a smooth stone, or maybe it's something else that you have on your person, or you feel your soft sweater. That may help you, again, just focus on your senses. This one I love, counting backward from 100 by 7s. That's kind of difficult, and so it's very hard to think about something else when you're trying to accurately count backwards from 100 by 7s. A lot of people love having a grounding mantra or affirmation. I've seen and heard people who put their affirmations on their mirrors in the morning or someplace in their classroom that you just see every day. Things that say something like this example, I'm calm and centered, or this too shall pass. And so you just repeat that in your head, or you can look at it as you've written it out and stuck that on your computer. And that's just a good reminder each and every day. And then gratitude reflection. Close your eyes and think about 3 things you're thankful for in your life. That creates a flood of positive emotions. It could be something as simple as your warm cup of coffee, a kind gesture. You think about your family. You think about a great vacation you had. And there's a lot of research behind gratitude reflection that it really does start to rewire the brain to think more positively. On the right here, we've got our box that's counting down. So these are visuals you can find on the internet, and they're great. So it tells you how long you're going to breathe in, and it's doing the countdown for you. You're holding it, you're breathing out, and you're holding again. So it really teaches you the length of time that you should be doing that deep breathing to calm your entire body down. Others are foot focused. Feel your feet on the floor, notice the surface, wiggle your toes. So again, sensory sort of techniques, taking you out of the moment. And then muscle engagement, clenching and releasing fists, or tightening and relaxing muscles in your hands and feet. And then stretching, a great way to relax, maybe just while students are working on something, or as you're standing up, even if you just kind of put your arms behind you and stretch, or the neck rolls, it really can help your overall well-being during the school day. And last, just some other things to enhance your well-being. For some people, they like to draw out what their favorite things are as far as self-care. It's a good reminder when you are really stressed to say, hey, let me take a look at this, and oh yeah, sleep, that really helps me. I need to make sure that I go to bed early tonight. Or for some, it's reading or taking a walk outside, getting some fresh air. But these are just good visual reminders. And then there are so many ideas on the internet. If you look over to the right, you can find these just in Google Images. But just, again, reminders of, hey, here's some ways, easy ways I can take care of myself so that I'm ready to just be present and be positive for my students.
We've explored key elements that support teacher success, teacher mindset, policies and processes, the use of the EPIC camera, and strategies for well-being. Now let's shift our focus to another critical resource, human resources. HR plays an essential role in helping staff navigate professional challenges, whether that's accessing support through the Employee Assistance Program or addressing workplace concerns. This partnership ensures that teachers have both the tools and the guidance they need to thrive in a positive professional environment. It's important to ensure that staff has access to resources that will support their well-being. One such resource is our Employee Assistance Program, which provides confidential support and services to help employees navigate personal and professional challenges. This program is available to all RCPS employees and their families and offers assistance with mental health, stress management, financial counseling, and family support. By offering these resources, we aim to promote the overall well-being of our staff and their loved ones, ensuring they have the tools and the assistance needed to thrive both inside and outside the workplace. However, if an employee chooses to violate policy or the law, the situation moves beyond support services. At that point, human resources will step in to investigate behaviors and ensure compliance with professional standards. Our goal is always to support first, but accountability is essential for maintaining a safe and respectful environment. If during observations or through feedback from students or visitors, a concern is noted, our Human Resources Department initiates an investigative process. When the concern involves an employee's conduct, school administrators immediately contact Human Resources. Human Resource leadership then determines whether administrative leave is necessary while the investigation proceeds. Depending on the situation, HR will either assign a personnel investigator to lead the investigation or guide the school administrator through the next steps. When an HR personnel investigator conducts the investigation, the process will include interviewing the involved employee, reviewing relevant video surveillance, interviewing witnesses, and preparing a written conclusion for HR administrators. Based on the findings, HR determines whether the employee remains employed, is terminated, or requires a corrective action plan. At the conclusion of the investigation, or sooner if warranted, HR also decides whether to make referrals to law enforcement, the Department of Family and Children Services, or to the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. As educators, it's important to understand the authority of the Georgia Professional Standards Commission, or the GAPSC, when it comes to maintaining ethical conduct in our profession. The PSC has the discretion to issue sanctions when probable cause exists that an educator has violated professional standards. Let's review the 6 types of sanctions the Professional Standards Commission can impose. Denial. This means refusing to grant initial certification to an applicant. If the standards aren't met, certification will not be issued. Monitoring. This involves quarterly appraisals of an educator's conduct. During this period, the PSC may require criminal background checks, and the length of monitoring is determined by the commission. A reprimand or a formal admonishment for unethical conduct. It serves as a warning that further violations will lead to more severe consequences. A revocation. This is the permanent invalidation of any certificate held by an educator. A voluntary surrender of certificate is treated the same as a revocation. And suspension, a temporary invalidation of a certificate for a specific period of time as determined by the PSC. Or a warning. This informs the educator that their conduct is unethical and cautions that continued violations will result in harsher sanctions. These sanctions are serious and underscore the importance of adhering to the Code of Ethics for educators. Our actions not only impact students and colleagues, they also affect our professional standing and career. Always remember, professionalism and ethical behavior are non-negotiable in education.
So, I told you it wasn't fun content, but it is necessary content. We talked first about some of the training that we have done. Then we showed some video situations that are not in Rockville County. We then showed ways to use your crisis alert system, showed a view of the cameras. We finished up with some social emotional well-being, and then we ended with some practices that may happen should there have to be an investigation. So after hearing that, are there any questions that you have? Yes, sir.
So my question is, what protections do teachers have in terms of us being assaulted back?
You would have the same protections that you have if you were assaulted on the street. I mean, can you give me more of an example?
Let's take that first clip. The first clip you showed off, I forgot what that is, Florida.
Where the child slapped away his hand?
Yes, ma'am. Let's take that. You know, that child slapped their teacher's hand. What if a teacher slapped a child's hand? You know what I'm saying?
I do, but I think that we would address it like we did here. So if a child slaps your hand, that might be an appropriate time if you feel, I mean, it's hard when somebody reacts to you that way. It is great restraint to not react. So those are those moments that we're talking about. To take a second, be calm, step away, don't engage, press the crisis response button, have somebody in your room in a minute or two, and you say, they slapped me, well then that child could also be charged with something. That child would have a discipline infraction. But I mean, if the child hits you, we saw that situation at Heritage a couple of years ago where the child broke the teacher's leg. And then the child spent time in juvenile. So I think in those moments, that's where we have to go. It's very easy to get angry in those situations. It's human to get angry in those situations. But we have to go back to, I'm going to step back. I might even have to step outside of my classroom because if I don't, I'm going to lose my composure. Sure.
How should we break up fights?
That's an excellent question. It is an excellent question. So a fight is imminent danger to a child. A child is going to be hurt if there is a fight. So if you're comfortable, you could either call your mindset team, you could choose to break up that fight, or you can choose not to break up that fight. You're going to have to use your professional judgment. But if you're breaking up a fight, you saw the video camera that we have, and it's a very good question. If you're breaking up a fight, let's say me and Jermon are tussling, because we do that sometimes. He makes me mad, I gotta give him the old one. Let's say you come up to pull me off, and in the process, maybe you hurt my arm. You would be protected because you are in good faith breaking up a situation that was imminent danger. Now, if you're not comfortable with that, for example, my office is at RCA, there's a fight at RCA, odds of me getting involved are pretty slim. Odds of me calling for help, pretty favorable. Even though I'm mindset certified, when those kids are fighting, they're in a whole different, they've already lost their executive function. So you gotta just use professional judgment. If it's something you feel could happen, if you're responding appropriately, you would be protected. You're welcome. I know it's a gray area, so it's a great answer. Yes, sir. That is the person that you notify. So if you have notified or if you witness the situation, go to the administrator and tell them what you saw. Like you go right there, your administrator or your counselor, and that is you reporting. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with that, like if you feel like, no shame here, but if you feel like that fell on deaf ears, nobody really listened, any of you could call that 855-GENE-CHILD. Anybody can call that number. Is that right? Okay. if you feel like there's an allegation of abuse. Just our process says you notify an administrator or a counselor or a social worker. However, if you feel like it wasn't handled, you have the freedom to, and the responsibility to do that yourself. Yes, sir.
Teaching is a partnership, right? That's between the parents, community, the kids. Is this same presentation offered to the parents?
We are doing something a little different, but yes, we're going to offer something very similar to parents. Because you're right, it is. Everybody needs to understand it. Any other questions? No judgment, just answers. Well, I appreciate that you're I don't even know if you're willing. I appreciate you sitting here and acting willing to hear this presentation. As you well know, there's no elephant in the room here, but this can happen, and it does happen. And, you know, we heard a lawyer say that this is the culture of Rockdale. That is not the culture of Rockdale. This is the culture of Rockdale, coming together, asking questions, collegiality. That is what we're about. So we just want to make sure we equip everybody with what they need so that we don't have that reputation. Did you have one more question? Sure.
What is that you're referring to, and when will it be offered?
I know that we're going to offer a face-to-face at Parent Academy, but I believe we're also going to offer online. Do you have suggestions?
No, I'm just trying to see the requirements, right? I know you said, like, this is being presented to 22, I think, schools today, right? And so this falls on us.
It
I
does.
understand, like, the nature of what just happened, and money probably going to be spent out based on that. This is, in relationship to that. So I'm speaking, like, on behalf of us, I guess, in part. And then the other thing is that there's a lot that goes with it. And I think it's only, a lot of times we only do it part of it. And I know it's the AI voice and everybody's talking about sweet.
Oh, that's my voice. Thank you. I think you two just signed yourself up for a committee. Yes, there's a. It's a great idea. Like a compliance director for the parents, kind of. Yeah, that's a great idea. Haven't thought of it. But there's a way to do anything that we think is the best practice. Anybody else? Okay, well, make sure that you have signed in here, and if not, make sure you've signed in on the paper copy. Otherwise, you will get to hear my AI voice one more time. No, I do appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much.